Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you can all hear me. My name is Martin. I'm the co-founder and director of Polar Routes, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the first of our Polar Routes Inspiration series, which is a series of talks and events by some of the brilliant people involved in polar travel that we're planning on running over the next year or so. And tonight is the first of many. Welcome to you all. Thank you so much for giving up your time. Thank you for joining us. The response has been fantastic to the point that we've pretty much got a sold-out event. So that is really fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to introduce you to the panelists who are running tonight with myself. If I can ask them to put on their cameras and just say a quick hello as I introduce them. The first person who to introduce quickly, this isn't like a large introduction, is our feature speaker this evening, and that's Dr. John Mason, a renowned physicist and has been chasing solar eclipses for over 35 years, principal lecturer at Southdown Planetarium, and regularly appears on television and radio, including The Sky at Night, at least 20 times. We were lucky enough to have him when we first launched Polar Routes over 5 years ago. Really looking forward to hearing from him tonight. John, good evening.
Yeah, good evening to everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Hopefully not too much of a long-winded introduction for you there. I am also tonight, it is sponsored by Intrepid, one of the partners that Polar Routes works with, and from Intrepid Travel, I have got a business development manager and polar expert working with him for a good while now. There's not much he doesn't know about the polar regions, and that's Matt. Hi, Matt.
Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and really looking forward to tonight.
Excellent. And also we have Lucy Yeoman, who's one of our senior travel specialists. Lucy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Martin. Good evening. I've been working with Martin now for the past year and a half, but my time in the industry has been over 20 years selling polar holidays. And I was lucky enough in 2003 to first go to Antarctica, and I've since been back twice, and it is the most amazing destination I've ever been to.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lucy. Right, I am going to share my screen, and we'll be back with our panelists a little bit later on. So let's just hopefully make sure that all works. Great. So hopefully everyone's looking at the screen for you. So this is the what we've got coming up tonight. So I've just done the introductions. I'm going to do a brief overview of Antarctica, kind of welcome to Antarctica presentation, just for sort of 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm conscious quite a few people on the call may have been to Antarctica before, but this is really just to give you a bit of a warm-up. Obviously, during lockdown, none of us have been very far, so hopefully just get us dreaming and in the right mood for what's to come. So I'll start off. Then we've got the feature presentation by John Mason, all about the solar eclipse, which is obviously what everybody knows we're here to talk about, and really looking forward to that one. We're then just going to get a short presentation from Matt on what Intrepid offers, and Intrepid, just so you know, through the association, John is actually going to be on board Intrepid's solar eclipse Antarctic departure. So really going to be a really exciting cruise option that they've got for you there. And then we're going to finish off with a Q&A and a prize as well. So on that note, with questions and answers, if you've got a question, at the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A section. So if you've got a question, whether it's about the solar eclipse itself, or just about cruising to Antarctica in general, or a specific question about what Intrepid have to offer, please pop your question into the Q&A at the bottom. Don't be shy, and then at the end we're going to try and get through as many questions as we can, and I'll put them to John, to Lucy and to Matt. So do use that Q&A function. and ask any questions you want. And as I said, at the end, someone will win a prize. And this is tonight's prize. We have got two, you've got your choice of either some Northwest Passage Expedition gin, which is a fantastic gin by the Orkney Distillery. So that you can choose that, or you could choose Shackleton's whiskey if you are a whiskey drinker. You can choose from that as well. If you're not a drinker, we can find a suitable non-alcoholic alternative for you. In order to win the prize, you must still be here at the end. So do stay tuned for that. It'll be a random draw of everybody who is here. So let's just very quickly introduce ourselves. Hopefully many of you do know who we are, but just in case, we're Polar Routes. We are the Polar Expedition Cruise Specialists. What does that mean? We basically sell polar cruising to Antarctica and the Arctic as well, day in, day out. We absolutely love it. We work now with over 20 leading expedition operators. We like to say if we don't work with them, they're probably not worth knowing, or there's a reason. But we have got a huge choice of operators, a huge choice of cruises. It is a bit overwhelming. That's where we come in with our expertise. And as you heard, Lucy, just one of our travel specialists, has been in the industry for over 20 years. But we'll compare all the expedition operators to help you find your perfect expedition cruise. Expert advice, as you'd expect, and detailed knowledge of the ships, the operators. There's not a lot we don't know. We'll glance over this very quickly because obviously we're hosted by Intrepid this evening. I'll put you front and centre that in for Intrepid. But these are just some of the operators we work. So we do work with big names that you may have heard of, and we work with some smaller, more boutique and specialist companies. So we can do expedition cruises for ships as small as 12 passengers. The largest that we do is expedition style is 500. The majority of what we sell tends to be 250 passengers or less. Just a quick one, all of our prices are always the same or better than the cruise operators directly. That's absolutely guaranteed. You'll never lose out by booking through Polar Routes. Plus, any operator offer you'll see will be able to get hold of, and you'll even see Polar Routes exclusive deals along the way as well. We package the cruise with flights, transfers, and exciting land packages if you want to do more around your cruise, and we'll look after that all in one holiday for you. Or of course we can just do the cruise if that's all you're after. And as you would expect, especially in this day and age, there's 100% financial protection with all of our holidays. We're members of Agile and Approximate as well. So let's transport ourselves away from our homes to somewhere which really couldn't be much further away, and that is the amazing and incredible destination of Antarctica. I think just to sort of set the scene for Antarctica, this picture is actually my own. I am not a professional photographer by any means, but if I can take this picture, then you can too. There are so many things that we love about Antarctica, and this is probably one of the biggest reasons, or one of the biggest things we love in Antarctica. That's penguins. We absolutely love penguins. When you go to Antarctica, you will see hundreds, if not thousands of penguins. That's almost guaranteed, I would say. We love penguins like this. We love penguins like these, and even penguin chicks like this, which is always cute to see. If you want to see the penguin chicks for Antarctica, January and February is the best time to go. But you'll see penguins always, whenever you go to Antarctica, you'll see penguins there. Now at Polar Routes, we do love polar bears. However, just in case, we won't be finding any of those in Antarctica. If you saw polar bears down there, I don't think there'd be many penguins left. So for these guys, you'd need to go to the Arctic, and Polar Routes do offer that as well, but you won't find them down south. You will find whales down south, some absolutely incredible sightings of whales potential there, all sorts of varieties as well. Humpback, blue whales is very common to be seen down there. And again, if you're a whale watcher and you want to kind of combine Antarctica and whale watching, then the later months of the season tend to be better for that. February and March tend to be the better times to go for whales, but you have got the chances of seeing whales at other times of the season as well. We love whales. We love them this close. Hopefully you can see that at the bottom there. That's a kayaker out on one of his little kayaks from an expedition cruise, and that whale's just popped up right next to him to see what's going on there. I imagine both an incredibly amazing sight at the same time as being quite a shock to find out something the size of a whale popping up right next to your kayak there. Seals, love the seals in Antarctica. You're going to see these all over whenever you go. They have got some fantastic expressions on their faces. Sometimes they look funny, sometimes they look sleepy and cute. But seals is you'll see plenty of those as you go along. And killer whales, or orcas, to give them the better title. This actually, again, is one of my pictures. This orca came right up to the ship for a look at what was going on, and fantastic to get a shot that close to an orca. Just absolutely incredible creatures. And if anyone's seen Frozen Planet with David Attenborough, you'll see how intelligent and how orcas hunt is quite incredible as well. If you're into your birds, Antarctica is a good place to go for birds. There are a number of species there, lots and lots of birds. The best part of Antarctica to go for birds is South Georgia, and that's where you've got hundreds of species, some that are endemic just to South Georgia. There's a couple of examples on there for you of birds that you'll see on visits to Antarctica, but South Georgia is our recommendation if that's something you're particularly interested in. But going to Antarctica, really, it's all about things like this. We love going to Antarctica, standing on the bow of a ship and just enjoying incredible views like this, incredible views like this, and incredible views like this. The great thing about expedition cruising, the ships are tiny in comparison to the big ships you might see going around the Mediterranean or even South America for that matter as well. And they can get into the channels and the fjords and the places that the big ships just simply cannot get to. So that's one of the things you'll do in Antarctica, is one of the things we absolutely love about it. But it's not just about being on the ship. The big thing with expedition cruises to Antarctica is getting off the ship. And that's where Intrepid can help you, that's where a number of operators can help you as well. And because you want to set foot on Antarctica, or get off the ship onto the Zodiacs like this, and cruise around these incredible ice floes, perhaps spot wildlife from the Zodiac boats like this, or just be impressed by the huge ice sculptures, the huge landscapes that you're going to see down in Antarctica. But as mentioned, it's also about making landings as well. It's about getting onto the Antarctic Peninsula itself. This is how you do it. The Zodiac comes up to the beach and you hop out with your welly boots and off up the beach you go. And as you can see from this picture, it's not always an easy thing to do, but the expedition teams on board your cruise will make sure that you get your foot onto Antarctica and go exploring. And that, once you get on land, there's all sorts of things that can await you. So walking up to places like this for views like this, and views like this, wherever you are in Antarctica and whenever you go, the scenery, it's so difficult to oversell the scenery because it is absolutely incredible. You can visit places. This here is the Penguin Post Office. This is a genuine British post office that is in Antarctica. And you can come here and they've got a museum where you can see an old sort of explorer's hut, as well as probably one of the world's most expensive gift shops. And you can buy a postcard, send it home, and it takes around about 4 to 6 weeks for that postcard to arrive home. So you'll probably have come home and told everyone what an amazing time you've got, but how incredible to receive a postcard from Antarctica. This is another place that you could visit. This is the Argentine Base. So there are a number of working bases down in Antarctica, a number of nationalities with interest in Antarctica. Nobody actually owns it. So a number of countries have interest down there, and sometimes you might find yourself visiting one of the research bases down there and learning a little bit about the work that goes on and what they're doing down there as well. Not just about visiting places, it's also about doing some amazing things. So this is one activity offered by a number of expedition cruise lines. It's camping on ice. It's exactly as it sounds. It is a night camping under the stars on the ice. If this looks like a dream thing to do, make sure you book it in advance. Do not miss out. If this looks like a nightmare, it is exactly what it looks like. It is camping on the ice in the cold. So one to either definitely put on your list or one to avoid. This is kayaking. A number of operators offer a kayaking program, and it's something that you can, many operators offer it as an entire program for the duration of your cruise. A couple of operators offer it as a little taster, a little one or two times to give it a go when you're down there. But that's, again, something just absolutely incredible. But Antarctica is really about creating experiences like this. You're supposed to remain 5 meters away from the penguins. Nobody tells the penguins that. So you'll find them coming up to you like this, creating experiences like this, and just moments like this, just moments of absolute joy, absolutely incredible scenery. And just to prove my own Antarctic credentials, there I am, looking a little bit younger and a little bit slimmer than I do today, but that's what it's all about. And of course, the reason why we're here on the 4th of December in 2021, Antarctica's got an extra reason to go, and that is the solar eclipse. Shortly, we'll be coming on to learn a little bit more about that. So expedition cruising, what is an expedition cruise? This is the facts of what it is. So it's a small ship, and I can't stress that enough. 80 to 500, the majority of what we sell is 250 or less. And as mentioned, we can do ships as small as 12. Every cruise is run by the captain and a really experienced expedition leader who are accompanied by a team of expedition staff who are experts in varying fields like history, glaciology, wildlife, etc. And the ship really is just the means of transport for getting around an incredible place. Not to say that it can't be a very comfortable one if you are looking for that sort of thing. We have mentioned you'll get off the ship, set foot on land at regular points called landings, and the program of landings is normally decided by the captain and the expedition team, and is flexible to adapt to wildlife, attractions, conditions, seas, weather, and all that sort of stuff. So it's a real adventure. When you set off from Ushuaia, there'll be a plan A. Probably by the time you get back, you'll be on plan D, E, F, or even beyond. And then just generally for expedition cruising, all the stuff that's included that you would expect. So accommodation, obviously, full board, normally coffee, tea and water, cookies, cakes and treats. You'll be well fed whilst you're on board your cruise. But most importantly, and how this can sometimes differ to regular cruising, most of the landings are also included. You don't pay for things like shore excursions. We don't use that word in expedition cruising. But all the landings are normally included, as well as the services of the expedition team. They will join you at dinner. They will offer their expertise on deck. The program of lectures, if you've got an expert on board as well, you get access to those. And also things like a parka jacket or waterproof boots, and some operators even offer all-inclusive basis as well. There are 4 main regions for Antarctica, so we've talked about just generally to get a nice sense of the destination. There are 4 main areas to Antarctica that are on there. That's the Antarctic Peninsula, the Falklands, South Georgia, and I'm very just briefly going to mention the Chilean Fjords just very briefly, but we can look at that in more detail. The area that we're talking about of Antarctica is that area just there. So it is actually the sort of finger of Antarctica that comes up towards South America. And that's the area that you explore. It's a small part, but there's so much to see. There's over 100 landing sites on that part of the Antarctic Peninsula. In addition, then you've got South Georgia and the Falklands as well. It's also worth just very briefly mentioning you can view and go to see Antarctica from the Ross Sea area as well. And that is something we offer. That generally goes from New Zealand, and it is a week at sea in either direction. But that is another area of Antarctica that you can explore as well. So, the Antarctic Peninsula, the land of the penguins, just there sticking up towards South America. The penguin species you're going to see on Antarctic Peninsula, the Gentoo, the chinstrap and the Adelie penguins, as well as amazing marine life, including whales, orcas, seals, elephant seals. Spectacular scenery, spectacular landscapes are a given. Amazing ice formations and glaciers can never be able to, it is simply spectacular, and hopefully you've got we've whet your appetite a little bit for that now as well. This is a typical Antarctic Peninsula trip, around about 11 to 12 days, with about 4 to 5 days down in the peninsula itself down there. So that's what a typical Antarctic Peninsula cruise looks like. South Georgia is the next biggest area that I would say most people want to see. And this really is the land of the kings. There are hundreds of thousands of king penguins on South Georgia. That is probably the #1 reason to visit, but there are other reasons to visit as well, including incredible bird life. There are, as mentioned, hundreds of species of birds, some that are only you can only see in South Georgia. So that's another huge reason to go and visit as well as explorer history. Ernest Shackleton's grave is here. This is where Ernest Shackleton, the explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton, ended up after an unsuccessful, shall we say, an unsuccessful expedition. This is where he ended up. It's also where he is buried, and you can visit that grave and tip a glass of whiskey in his honour. Sorry. And South Georgia often is the real highlight of someone's cruise. This is kind of what a typical cruise that takes in South Georgia and the Antarctic Peninsula. You're probably looking 15-16 days, and you'll spend probably a couple of days in South Georgia, 3 to 4 days on the Antarctic Peninsula. The Falkland Islands, probably most famous for penguins, birds, and of course history as well for us. So it's a coastal marine paradise, I think, is the best way to describe the Falkland Islands. You can see king penguins, but Marconi penguins are the main species that you can see on here as well. And they do jump, they're amazing jumpers. If you've never seen them, they are absolutely fantastic. But Falklands is much more of a marine experience, great for birds. These are the sorts of scenes you're going to see in the Falklands. And of course, there's Port Stanley, which is a little piece of the UK. You can land in Port Stanley, go to the pub or have afternoon tea. And it's a little piece of Britain over in the Falklands. And of course, there's some dramatic history on there. And if you have got a great historian on board, you're going to have that really brought to life for you, or perhaps a local guide might help bring that to life for you, if that's something that you're interested in as well. That's what this particular cruise here is, one that would take in the Falklands, South Georgia, and the Antarctic Peninsula. This really is probably one of the biggest cruises you can do. The kind of, if you're only going to go once, and obviously budget comes into it, but if you want to do it all and you're only going once, this is the one to do. It's in the Falklands for a couple of days, South Georgia for 3 days, and the Antarctic Peninsula, say somewhere between 4 and 5 days, depending on how it works out. So this is a cruise. This is what we call the ultimate cruise, if you like, for Antarctica. And then just very briefly to mention the Chilean Fjords, which is just there, just at the bottom. It is possible to get a fantastic expedition cruise experience and even see penguins without going all the way to Antarctica. The cruises that we offered out through here, 4 to 5 days through some of the most remote fjords in the world, and some of the most dramatic areas of the Andes Mountains. And we can also tag this on before and after an Antarctic cruise as well. And that's what a typical itinerary looks like. So just something to mention there, but obviously we're here to talk about Antarctica. So I am now going to hand over to our main event. I'm going to over to John Mason. Hopefully he's still around. He can put his camera back on, and he is going to talk about. I'm sharing my screen, and he's here to talk about the amazing phenomenon of the solar eclipse that is coming up in December in Antarctica. So John, over to you.
Thank you, Martin. Well, that didn't work. We'll try again. See what happens this time.
I think we're in, John.
So we're here.
Yeah, you're in.
We're in.
Great, thanks, John. Over to you.
Good evening, everybody. As if the scenery of Antarctica wasn't spectacular enough, how about combining that with one of nature's greatest spectacles, a total eclipse of the sun? It's not something you can do very often, but the next opportunity is only about 8.5 months away, on the 4th of December this year. I've been chasing total solar eclipses for over 3 decades, and they truly are amazing sights. This picture was taken from the Sahara Desert in 2016, and you can see the totally eclipsed sun. The dark disk in the center is the new moon. The sun is hidden behind it, and around the outside you have those amazing pearly white streamers stretching out into the sky. It truly is something quite incredible. Total eclipses occur because although the sun is 400 times bigger than our moon, the moon is 400 times nearer to us on the Earth. And this means that both the moon and the Earth can appear almost exactly the same size in the sky. Now, as the moon goes round the Earth every month and the Earth goes round the sun, there will be times when the sun, the moon and the Earth line up in a dead straight line. And you can see that solar eclipse geometry here. Now, for a total solar eclipse, the sun, the moon and the Earth don't only have to be in line, but the moon has to be close enough so that the moon's shadow reaches the surface of the Earth. So if you can see my pointer there, there's the cone of the Earth, of the moon's shadow reaching the surface of the Earth. So the moon has to be close enough to that to happen. And you've got to be somewhere on the Earth where that tiny bit of shadow will sweep across the Earth's surface. Now, let's go out into space 22,200 miles above the Earth. And we are watching a total solar eclipse on the Earth, but we're watching it from space. This was the 29th of March 2006, and you can see a dark circle moving across the continent of Africa from bottom left to top right. There it goes, going right across the Sahara Desert. And that dark circle is the central part of the moon's shadow. We call it the umbra, sweeping across the Earth's surface at supersonic speed. So you've got to position yourself in exactly the right place at the right time to be underneath that shadow as it sweeps across the Earth. And you have to be in a very narrow path across the Earth's surface that's never more than about 168 miles wide. So let's have a look then at the tracks of some eclipses across the surface of the Earth. Now, the lines we're interested in here are the narrow blue corridors across the Earth. They are the tracks of total solar eclipses in the 20-year period from 2001 to 2020. You can see that in all that time, only one of those blue paths crossed Antarctica, this one here. And that was on the 23rd of November 2003, about 18 years ago. And that was the very first total solar eclipse to be observed from Antarctica. But it wasn't in a location on Antarctica that was quite so easy to access as the one later on this year. You can see that because those paths of totality are so narrow, they only cross very few places on the Earth's surface, even in a 20-year period. So you have to wait a very long time before a total solar eclipse might come to near where you live. So you nearly always have to travel to see them. And this year, the destination is Antarctica, because on the 4th of December this year, the cone of the moon's shadow will sweep across Antarctica at that time. So let's have a look from a view above the South Pole at the track of this December's total solar eclipse. It's the narrow corridor in blue. You can see that it starts at sunrise to the east of the Falkland Islands there, sweeps right across Antarctica, here's greatest eclipse, and then goes off and ends at sunset over there. This animation by A.T. Sinclair shows the moon's shadow passing across the Earth on that day. Now, the large blue-grey area is the area within which you will only see a partial eclipse of the sun. In other words, where not all of the sun is going to be covered by the dark disk of the new moon. But right in the middle, you'll see there's a tiny black speck. That is the tiny part of the shadow, which is the dense central part, the umbra, and you've got to be somewhere along that track that is swept by that very small dark area. That is the area within which you would see a total solar eclipse. So let's zoom in a bit on the part of the track of this December's total eclipse that is most of interest to us. So here we're looking at the Antarctic continent at the bottom. You've got the tip of South America at the top, and you can see the Antarctic Peninsula curving up to the right of centre. And you can also see the zone of totality. You can see that it starts, as I said earlier, to the east of the Falkland Islands, curves round around the main Antarctic ice cap, and then curves out, sort of like a semicircle, if you like. Now, the blue line in the middle of that corridor is what we call the centre line. That is the position at which you will see the greatest amount of totality. And the pinkish lines on either side are the north limit and south limit of totality. You've got to be within that dark corridor-like zone. Now, even at the beginning of December, the Antarctic ice extends quite a way northwards. So you don't have a huge amount of choice for where to go to view this particular eclipse. But fortunately, it's an area that many of the ships do go to on a regular basis. So let's zoom into the right-hand side of this to the beginning of the path of totality. So you've got the tip of South America over at the extreme top left, and you've got the start of the band of totality here at sunrise, and we're looking at the portion of that band of totality from sunrise into the early morning. You'll see that the zone extends through the region between South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands up here, and the South Orkney Islands here, which I've highlighted in yellow for a reason that will become apparent in the middle. Now, in theory, you could position yourself anywhere along that blue line, and the moon's shadow would sweep across you, and that is where you would get the greatest amount of totality. But of course, that's not any good if the sky is completely cloudy. So you don't necessarily want to position yourself bang on the center line. You need to position yourself somewhere in this region, in the band of totality, where you are most likely to have a clear sky at the time the eclipse occurs. So now we look at satellite data for the amount of cloud that we get in this region at this time of year. And at first glance, it doesn't look too promising. Antarctica is a very cloudy place on average at the beginning of December. You can see South Georgia right over on the far right here, the South Orkney Islands here, which intrude into the band of totality. So this is the region that we're going to sail to, and we've got to find somewhere in there where we have a far greater chance of seeing the eclipse. And fortunately, if you look at the weather prospects in a bit more detail, it's not quite as bad as it first appears. Here you can see the Antarctic Peninsula on the left, And this is a satellite image taken on the 4th of December 2017, the day of the eclipse, but 4 years before it was due to occur. Now you'll notice South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands to the top right, and the South Orkney Islands that I mentioned earlier. And you'll see that although there is quite a bit of cloud, that in this region here, to the right of the South Orkney Islands, there are clearly some areas where the cloud is thinner. So let's examine that in a bit more detail. Here you've got the chain of islands, which are the South Orkney Islands, and you can see the red line going across there, which is the south limit of the total eclipse. So you've got to be somewhere in this region to the right of that red line. Now, Laurie Island, which is the furthest east of the chain of islands in the South Orkney Islands, is the area in which we are most interested. And this is why. Here are 4 satellite images, all taken on the 4th of December, the day of the eclipse, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. In all of them, you can see the South Orkney Islands, and you'll notice that the South Orkney Islands themselves create a sort of microclimate, their own weather system. Because the winds at this time of year are generally blowing from left to right across the South Orkney Islands, you are very likely to get clear patches or larger clear areas of sky towards the east-northeast of the South Orkney Islands. And so you need to position your ship somewhere in the region to the northeast of the South Orkney Islands, where you have clear sky in the direction the sun will be. And this is very important. It doesn't matter if the ship is underneath complete cloud cover. What you want is for it to be clear in the direction of the sun, because the sun will be quite low in the sky, between 8 and 9 degrees above the horizon. And so what we want is to position the ship in a place where we are looking through clear sky towards where the sun is located. And this is likely to mean that we're not going to be on the center line of the passage of the moon shadow. We're going to be some way over towards the south limit. Now, if you were on the center line, to the very east of Laurie Island, you would get about 1 minute, 42 seconds of totality. If you're somewhere in this clear region, to the northeast of the South Orkney Islands, you're going to get rather less totality, about 1 minute, 7 seconds. Let's have a look at the data for the eastern end of Laurie Island. You can see there the duration of totality, just about 1 minute and 7 seconds. And you can see the timings here. Bear in mind that we'll be about 3 hours behind these times. And you can see that the time of maximum eclipse, the sun is about 8 degrees above the horizon at a bearing of 121. In other words, something like towards the southeast or east-southeast. That's the direction where we need the sky to be clear. The thing is to take the ship and sail to that region, look at the satellite images, look at the weather data, and position the ship where you're likely to get the best view towards the southeast at the time of totality, where you've got clear sky ahead of you. The ship here, the Ocean Endeavour that we're going to be sailing on, is a rather older ship, but that is a very good thing, because the older ships tend to have a lot more deck area on the ship, and that is definitely what you want for viewing and for eclipse watching. So the ship will line up so that it's broadside on to the direction the eclipsed sun will be, which means that people can line up all the way along the rail, looking in that direction on the various decks which have a clear view. Here we can see a view from the front of the ship, looking at the sun very low down. On the day of the eclipse, the ship will be arranged almost 90 degrees to this. In other words, broadside on to the direction of the sun, rather than heading towards it as it is in this view. Now, in addition to the moon covering the sun during totality, there are a huge number of other things to look out for, both before, during, and after a total eclipse of the sun. The lighting changes in a quite fantastic and magical way. No one who has never been through a total eclipse of the sun can appreciate the incredible changes in the colour and quality of the lighting that occurs in the lead up and the period after totality. Shadows sharpen, lighting changes, things take on an almost eerie appearance in the light of the almost totally eclipsed sun. And in that lead up to totality, flora and fauna are often very interesting to observe. Certainly here, one of the things that I'm very interested to observe is the effect on any bird life that there may be around the ship at that time. Because birds change their behaviour quite dramatically in the minutes before a total eclipse occurs. You've got to remember that at this time of year in Antarctic, it is continuous daylight. The sun actually won't set at all. And it means that all the birds will be used to it being pretty light all the time, except that for just over 1 minute on this day, the sun will go out, hidden by the dark disk of the moon. And it's really interesting to see the behaviour of the birds at that time. Now, of course, because you're on a ship, people will be very interested in what the sea state is going to be. And you can see here on a map of the average wave height, we've superimposed the path of totality. And in the area we're interested in, which is over here on the right, the wave height on average would be somewhere between 1.75 and 2 meters. So not too severe. It will mean, of course, that you'll need to take pictures using very short exposures, high ISOs, and those sort of things, but we can tell you about that at the time, or video may be a better choice. But certainly it is going to be a quite magical experience. Here you can see what it's like when a total solar eclipse in the middle of totality, the sun not too high in the sky, those amazing colours around the horizon, the beautiful deep blue of the sky, the totally eclipsed sun with that dark black circle where the new moon is located. And you don't need a completely cloud-free sky. In fact, some clouds even add to the beauty of the event. They pick up the glorious colours of the lighting. All you don't want is a cloud right over the sun at the precise moment of totality. But clouds around the sun will only add to the magic and majesty of the event. I hope you're able to join me on the 4th of December 2021 for this amazing experience. Over to you, Martin.
Thanks, John. Oh, it's just incredible, isn't it? It's just absolutely amazing. If I was going solar eclipse hunting, I'd want John on my ship. I feel like you've got an excellent, the very best possible chance of seeing a perfect view with John. Although, of course, nothing's guaranteed. I'm going to invite Matt from Intrepid to pop on his camera, and obviously, Matt, you have got John on your solar eclipse. You lucky things.
Yeah, we're very, very excited to have John on board. You know, his knowledge you know, he's got such extensive knowledge. He's so experienced in chasing eclipses all around the world. So to have John as our guest lecturer on board the Ocean Endeavour for our eclipse trip is just amazing, and we're super excited. And my fingers and toes are crossed that work will let me go on that departure, because I think John mentioned earlier the next departure where you'll get to see a total solar eclipse in Antarctica from departing from South America won't be for another 50 years. So a long time to wait. So it just will be the most amazing experience. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Oh, great. All right, well, over to you, Matt.
Perfect. Okay, guys, so thank you so much to Martin and to John for those fantastic presentations. Antarctica is by far my favorite destination that I've ever visited. I remember my very, very first landing ever in Antarctica, when we boarded the Zodiacs, we went onto the land, and I just remember being overwhelmed, because as we were in the Zodiacs and we were cruising around the glaciers and the icebergs, I remember being dwarfed by these huge tabular icebergs. The colours were absolutely amazing, and I'd never realised I could fall in love with ice as much as I did. And as soon as I hit, we landed. As Martin mentioned earlier, you're told not to go within 5 meters of the penguins, but they will not stop coming to you. I remember putting down my bag to get my camera ready, and I was a bit overwhelmed to take some pictures, and I had penguins pecking at my boots and trying to go through my bag. And then in the background, we actually had a humpback whale that started breaching as well during our first landing in front of this absolutely breathtaking scenery. So for me, there is no destination like Antarctica. So today we're really lucky to have John on this event, but also on our Antarctic Eclipse trip. But we also do have a wide range of itineraries and departures throughout the upcoming season from November 2021 through to March 2022. And then from November 2022 all the way through to March 2023. So some fantastic options for customers that are desperate to get away and get traveling again to this fantastic region, and also to plan ahead for future travel as well. And we are really excited. Now is a perfect time to book. We're offering up to 25% off our departures, including our Antarctic Eclipse trip, and Polar Routes as well do have a fantastic exclusive offer that they can offer customers up until the end of the March as well, where we're offering free upgrade cabins on select departures, including the Antarctic Eclipse. And I'll be touching on the prices and a bit more information in just a few more minutes. So the Ocean Endeavour is our Intrepid ship. She's a fantastic vessel, a true expedition vessel, and is a mid-sized, mid-range ship. So you're looking roughly around 3.5-star accommodation if you had star ratings on ships. But she's a true expedition vessel and absolutely amazing. At Intrepid and on board the Ocean Endeavour, we're completely committed to offering uncompromised Antarctic expeditions. Now, we believe that when you're down in Antarctica, it's all about the destination, it's all about the wildlife, it's all about that breathtaking scenery and learning from our experienced expedition team on board and getting that knowledge. How we offer uncompromised expeditions is we actually have a Zodiac for every guest on board. So we have 22 Zodiacs, and the industry-leading passenger-to-guest ratio of 8:1. And that means we can offer some of the fastest operations down in Antarctica to have everybody off the ship at one time. So up to 100 passengers on the ice at one time. And then we have up to 32 passengers kayaking, and the rest of our customers Zodiac cruising. And, you know, everyone thinks about being up close and personal with the penguins and the seals and the wildlife, which is, you know, absolutely spectacular. But I absolutely love the Zodiac cruising as well. When you have a whale popping up next to you when you're in this small Zodiac, so close to the water, and they turn off the engines and you get that silence, and all you get is the sound of Antarctica, the cracking of the ice, the glaciers, the penguins. It's really breathtaking to be so close to the water. We are really lucky as well to have a really incredible expedition team on board, and they've been working in the industry. They've all been to, you know, the polar regions hundreds of times, over 100 times, and it's just, you know, that level of knowledge and that expedition team to guest ratio is so great that you'll just love getting that knowledge from the staff on board. The ship has just been recently refurbished, so we have amazing lounges, bars, lots of social areas. We have a polar library, lots of places to sit back, relax, and enjoy that polar scenery. So you'll meet lots of fantastic polar and travel enthusiasts on board, and you'll get to know them. But also, it's always great to have a bit of that, you know, personal time, looking out your window, going out onto the outer decks, and watching the world go by. And as John mentioned, the Ocean Endeavour actually has unrivaled amount of deck space. So some of the newer ships, they have balcony suites, but they do that means you're actually compromising on deck space. Now, on the Ocean Endeavour, if there is a whale breaching on one side, you don't have to go to the front or the back of the ship and try and peer around to see what's going on. You'll be able to go on kind of pretty much every single deck and just go outside and watch that spectacular wildlife and that scenery as well. So amazing wildlife spotting opportunities from the ship. And also the Ocean Endeavour is the best ship for the Antarctic Eclipse, because we will not have passengers on a single file at either side of the ship. Everyone will be able to have you know, nobody in their way, and an uncompromised view of the solar eclipse to get some great images and watch this natural and spectacular phenomenon. So moving on to the cabins, we have 10 different cabin categories, and we have everything from triple cabins, which are very popular with solo customers on a budget. We have inside twin cabins, twin portholes, twin windows, comfort twin, and then as you go up the cabin categories, you get larger windows, more space. You might have a lounge area and your bedroom as well, all with ensuite bathrooms, so offering a really comfortable stay on the expedition vessel. We actually have 3 solo occupancy cabin categories as well. So we have a single inside, we have a single porthole, and a single window cabin with some of the best, I think the best prices for solo customers, which are also in our discount at the moment. Now, it always seems a bit funny to people when I show people, customers, a picture of a mud room. But for any of you that have travelled to Antarctica already, as much as we love the penguins and they're beautiful and so much fun to watch, they can get a little bit smelly. There is a bit of penguin poo around. So going out, and once you get a bit wet and get your boots a little bit mucky, there's nothing better than taking off those outer layers and hang them up in your personal locker that you have for the duration of your trip. So what you'll do is you'll take off your outer layers. They'll be hung up in your private locker for the duration of the trip. So when you come back for your next lecture, they'll all be nice and warm and ready to go. And that means you don't need to take your outer layers into your cabin. So if you've got lots of you hanging on these outer layers, it can be a little bit uncomfortable. So the mudroom is a fantastic part of our operations. Now, the Ocean Endeavour, I could chat to you all day, but I've only got a little bit of time. But it's one ship with so many possibilities. We actually have a saltwater pool with jacuzzi. We have a spa as well. So for whilst you're relaxing, you might want to get a massage and just relax. But, you know, it is an expedition cruise. It's not like a traditional cruise or a mainstream cruise. It's all about the lectures from the expedition team and your learning and the getting off the ship and having the landings. But we have an open bridge policy, so you can go up into the bridge with the captain, join the expedition team whilst they're spotting wildlife. They might be spotting for breaching whales, and it's really fascinating to watch the ship navigate through all the ice. We also have a sauna as well, so nothing is better than going off onto that and being a little bit chilly after going out on your landing and getting into the sauna to defrost. And our saunas actually have these huge windows as well, so you can sit there watching the most spectacular scenery you'll ever see, but nice and warm in the sauna. We have a spa, gym, and as well. And something that Intrepid offer, we offer yoga and wellness activities as well, and free of charge included. as well as our operations for the landing and Zodiac cruising. So as mentioned, we offer all of the landings, the Zodiac cruising as part of the trip. It's full board. Drinks are included as well. Alcoholic drinks, quite often we'll have a beer or glass of wine with dinner. But if you want to sit at the bar and chat with your new travel friends, then the alcoholic drinks aren't included. We also include a pre-night's accommodation in Ushuaia to get ready for your trip. We include expedition boots, and we lend you an expedition parka throughout the duration of your trip. But we also give you a thermal underlayer fleece, which is perfect for the polar regions, which you will get to keep. And as Martin mentioned earlier, we've got some amazing additional activities in Antarctica, like kayaking, camping. We have an amazing photographers joining us on our trip. So even if you like to take a picture with your iPhone or your smartphone, or if you are an advanced photographer, I would highly recommend the photography workshops. The photography specialist will be on the landings with you. You'll be having private lectures. They'll be supporting you, talking you through the images that you've taken, how you can improve them, and actually helping you whilst taking photos from the ship and on the landing, helping you improve and gain extra knowledge with your photography skills. And as an additional extra as well, we do have snowshoeing, which you do not need to book in advance. You can just let our expedition team know whilst you're on board that it's of interest, and you can get off a little bit more off the beaten track and do some snowshoeing, which is a great optional activity. We're super lucky. We actually have 2 forward-facing Zodiacs as well. So these are used a lot for our photography specialists and photography workshop passengers because they really make it a lot easier to take pictures when you're facing forward rather than sitting on the side, which you would on a standard Zodiac. But there'll be opportunities for all the other passengers to use the forward-facing Zodiacs. There is a slight cost. It's $50 US to use the an experience on the forward-facing Zodiacs, and for people that want to take some better images from the Zodiac. So really great option to have. And now I'm just going to really quickly talk you through some of our itineraries. So we have the Best of Antarctica itinerary, which is your classic peninsula trip, starting and finishing in Ushuaia. Our very first departure of the year is from Punta Arenas in Chile, but you'll travel down via the South Shetland Islands and then down into the peninsula, where we'll aim to have 2 landings per day, usually aiming for, as we've got such a large expedition team and the fastest operations, we'll try and have landings for up to 3 hours twice a day. So plenty of time off the ship. So the from prices, some great prices in market at the moment. So triple cabins from £4,830 per person. We've got twin outside cabins for £5,380 per person, and single inside cabins for £5,830. So really amazing prices at the moment as part of our current sale until the 31st of March. On the Best of Antarctica trip, if you are to book with Polar Routes before the 31st of March, we can actually offer you a free cabin upgrade for either the 20th of December or 29th of December 2021 departures. And the 29th of December departure will be a great trip, and you'll actually be traveling over New Year and seeing in the New Year in 2022 down on the Antarctic Peninsula, which will be a phenomenal experience. We have Journey to the Antarctic Circle.
Matt, sorry, just conscious of time because we've got those questions mounting up.
Not a problem.
Just because I've got some questions for you as well.
Okay, no problem at all. I'll quickly skip through this. So, so Journey for the Antarctic Circle, slightly longer itineraries, 13 nights, 14 days, triple cabins from 9,000. You can read the twin outside from 9,195, single inside from 10,830, and free cabin upgrades offered on the 26th of January 2022 departure. The creme de la creme, Antarctica, Falklands and South Georgia. If you have the budget and the time to do this trip, as Martin mentioned, it's the land of the kings, the ultimate experience, and prices from just £12,035. So really fantastic options for the longer itineraries. Just really quickly, I do need to touch on this. We do have some amazing departures exclusively with the WWF. We'll have WWF scientists on board, a couple of our departures at the end of the season to help with the whale watching, and they'll be offering immersive, doing actual scientific research on marine life and majorly on our giant friends, the whales. And of course, I have to touch on the solar eclipse. Triple cabins from £9,995, twin outside cabins from just over £10,500, and single inside cabins for just over £11,500. And free cabin upgrades are offered to polar routes if booked before the 31st of March. And obviously, we have John with us. So that is it from me. So I'll pass you back over to Martin for our Q&A. And we do have some dates and rate sheets, guys, that we can request if you'd like all the pricing in one go. It's really, really useful for these. So just reach out to Polar Routes. They're such a professional outfit, so knowledgeable, and they'll be more than happy to assist you. So thank you so much for joining us, guys, and over to Martin for our Q&A.
Thank you, Matt. Sorry to sorry
Not
about
a problem.
Just wanted the time because we've had loads of questions in, so I'm going to try and get through as many as possible. So if I could just ask, thanks, John and Lucy, just to put your camera back on, that would be great. John, I'm going to start off with yourself, if that's all right. Pauline's asked, how confident are you that you can get the ship into the right place to get a good view of the eclipse? I mean, I'm guessing obviously nothing's guaranteed, but how would you answer that? What do you reckon?
Seeing a total solar eclipse is never guaranteed. I think in my entire career, there was only one total eclipse I knew I was going to see, and that was the one in the middle of the Sahara Desert in 2006. With all these things, it is a natural phenomenon. The eclipse will happen at the precise place and time, as we know, but there is no guarantee that we will definitely see it. There never is, and this one is no more different. We know the way in which we can increase the chances of seeing it, and we will obviously do our absolute best to make sure we are in the right place at the right time. But at the time, it depends on what the clouds are doing, the wind directions, and a host of things that we're not in control with. And even the total eclipse itself may carry its own microclimate with it. And so even if you get into a place which is lovely and clear, you might get clouds slowly forming that you can't predict. So if you're not there, you definitely won't see it. If you are there, you might well see it, and we will certainly do everything we can to give you the best chance of doing so.
I would also probably say that if you've got any chance, it's going to be with you, John.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
Thanks. I just on a slightly different thing, I think Charolumbus asked, is there a time of year you can see the southern lights in Antarctica?
Yes, the Aurora Australis, of course, they are visible when the sky is dark. So the Aurora Australis season is generally from sort of April through to the end of September, beginning of April to the end of September. Now, of course, very few ships sail in those waters at that time. Now, you can, of course, see them from the southern parts of South America, southern parts of New Zealand and Australia. You can see them from land, but there are very few ships sailing in the right place at the right time at that time of year.
Great, thank you very much. Matt, couple of questions in from yourself. Maggie Pedder asks, how confident are you that you'll be able to travel to Antarctica in 2021, given the current situation? I think it's probably a question on a lot of people's minds at the moment. What do you think?
Currently, we're fairly confident. We're planning to operate the trips as planned. Obviously, we have the rollout of the vaccine happening throughout South America and throughout Europe. So we're hoping by the end of the year, it should be a much higher possibility that we can operate the trips. What's really important, because I know people are aware that these are high value trips, but we're offering really flexible booking conditions. So, for example, if you book the trip and the trip can't, and you decide that you don't want to travel, you can postpone the trip to a later date either the following season or the same season, or postpone until 23-24 with no charge whatsoever. And if the trip can't go ahead, we're offering the chance to rebook onto a suitable alternative, hold your credit for future travel, and we're offering full cash refunds as well. So if you're excited to travel and you want to go this year, the 21-22 season, please do bear it in mind. And if it can't go ahead, your money is financially protected through Polar Routes and through Intrepid Travel with our flexible booking conditions. But we're pretty confident, but we've got that flexibility there as a backup.
Great, thanks, Matt. Nicola Elliott also asked, how environmentally responsible are the trips? Obviously, and responsibility sits at the heart of a lot of what Intrepid does. So what's the answer to that?
Yeah, so we pride ourselves on being the most sustainable travel company in the world. So, the reality is that any travel trip does leave some kind of carbon footprint. But Intrepid, we carbon offset all of our trips. We have done for over a decade. We're aiming to double carbon offset these trips. As part of our commitment to sustainable travel in Antarctica, we funded $150,000 to the WWF for their scientific research. And we'll have a citizen science project on board every single departure, where customers will have the opportunity to help with scientific research, which will really help the fight against climate change and tackle the climate crisis. So we're doing all we can. We're carbon offsetting everything, no single-use plastic on board, and carbon offsetting all the trips is super important. So very responsible and sustainable trips.
Thanks, Matt. And one last very quick one. Archie Robertson asked, does Ocean Endeavour have a vegan menu?
Well, we can adhere to all dietary requirements. I'm sure the guys can also agree. You seem to eat more than you ever have before when you're down in Antarctica, and there's such a wide variety of food. How the chefs do it is absolutely amazing. And we can adhere to all dietary requirements, so you won't have any problems at all as a vegan.
Thanks, Matt. Lucy, a couple for you. Jenny Klusky asks, how fit/agile does one ideally need to be to visit Antarctica? What do you think?
I don't think you need to be super fit and running marathons or anything like that. The fantastic thing about the Ocean Endeavour, having been on that, is you literally step from the ship onto the Zodiacs, and there's always somebody there to help you on and help you off. So as long as you're reasonably stable on your feet, you don't need to be super fit, super healthy. Once you're on shore, then it's up to you how active you want to be. Perhaps one of my best times was just getting ashore and plonking myself down in a penguin rookery, and I didn't move for 2 hours. It was just fantastic. So really, you don't need to be super fit, just stable on your feet.
I think in South Georgia as well, when you land on the beach of King Penguins, you don't need to go too far.
Yeah.
You get some incredible experiences on there as well. Brilliant. Archie Robertson also asks, what is the best time of year to visit the Falklands?
Probably the best time to go would be when it's their summertime, which is from November through to February. The days are slightly longer, the weather is better, and the wildlife is in abundance at that time of year. And again, towards the end of that season, that's when the whales will be there. So really November through to February, I'd say. Brilliant.
Thanks, Lucy. We'll just do 2 more, and then any that we've missed, we'll answer them afterwards. So Janet Knowles, I guess probably one for you, Lucy, maybe John. How likely am I to be seasick? What are the seas like around Antarctica?
Well, it's either the Drake's Lake or the Drake's Shake, and you just cannot predict, the crossing, what the crossing will be like. But once you do get down to the peninsula, the waters are really calm. So on those crossing days, hunker down in your cabin, take some seasickness tablets. But once you get to the peninsula, you really should be fine. The water's like a mill pond.
I'll go along with that as well. Great. And then just lastly, Jenny Klusky asks, as a solo traveller, is there any opportunity to find sharers for a cabin rather than pay a single supplement? Obviously, Matt, you mentioned there is actually single cabins on board the Ocean Endeavour, which is great. But that's if we just come to you, Lucy, because that's not always the case, is it?
A lot of operators are beginning to offer single cabins without sort of a huge supplement, but also other operators, including Intrepid, will allow you to share a cabin, and they'll pair you up with a same-sex cabin mate. So that does help keep the cost down as well.
Brilliant. That's great. And sorry, just one last very quick one, Lucy. An approximate cost of flights to get to the cruise, what would you say?
With flights from London via Buenos Aires down to Ushuaia, airport transfers, and you will need a minimum of 1 night pre, 1 night post hotel, I'd say you're looking at about £1,500. If you wanted to do additional arrangements down in South America, we can always help with that, because our sister company Latin Routes is more than capable of organising side trips or extras for you, like if you wanted to go up to Iguazu or something like that. So we can certainly package it all up and put it all together for you, but it's a rough ballpark figure, about 1,500.
Thanks, Lucy. There's also just one other comment from Roma in there, just about any advice on travel insurance, which I'll just pick up on that, because travel insurance is a little bit up in the air at the moment, obviously due to the situation. There is travel insurance companies now that do offer COVID cover, but it does vary, so you do have to check. And I think if you get in touch with us, we've got a current list of ones that are offering it that you can check out. However, what we're advising a lot of clients at the moment is to get cover, obviously, to get your deposit covered at this stage. And there's lots of, any insurance cover the deposits is important to put something into place. But we are expecting quite a lot of movement in travel insurance over the next few months as travel starts to come back on the cards again. So if you are struggling or if you are concerned about it, I think it's fair to say that over the next couple of months, if you get something just to cover the deposit for now, I think you'll find over the next couple of months there'll be quite a lot more opening up of travel insurance options. So by the time it comes to paying the final balance, Matt, final balance for Intrepid trips is roughly something like.
Currently, we're doing low deposits of £800, and full balance isn't due until 90 days before departure. So yeah, plenty of time to save some pennies as well if you're planning in advance.
And I think there'll be plenty of options in the market by that point. Brilliant. I think that is all we've got time for in terms of Q&A. John, thank you so much again for your presentation. Really inspirational, really amazing. I'd love to go. I'm desperate to go. So thanks so much again, John, for joining.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. And what I will just, and again, Matt, thank you so much again to yourself and Intrepid for sponsoring tonight. And Lucy, thanks very much as normal. Thank you very much for your input there. I have just got time for the last part, as promised. Let me just put this up so we can get it. Whilst we have been chatting away, I have randomly drawn the winner of either the bottle of gin or the Shackleton's whiskey, and it is Christine Hall that was drawn out of the hat for that. So Christine, congratulations. If you to claim your prize, please drop me an email, martin.johnson@post.uk, to claim your prize and let me know whether you would like the whiskey or the gin, and we'll get that out to you. That's it from us for this first one. Really hope that you have enjoyed it. I found it absolutely fascinating. Hope you've enjoyed it as well. There's a reminder of the offers that we've got on it. The off, and then the Polar Routes exclusive on the cabin upgrades on selected departures, which does include the Antarctic Peninsula. If one of the questions that came through was, where do I get a quote to do that? Give us a call. Numbers at the bottom there, 0203 196 1000. We're open from 9 AM tomorrow, or visit the website and submit an inquiry, or you can even email inquiry@polarroutes.co.uk and one of the team will pick that up. So feel free to get in touch. I'm happy to give quotations on this for that as well. So thank you so much for joining us. Hope you've had a great time. Enjoy your evening. Stay safe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you.